to the Roundtable, a special interview with the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, Honorable Dr. Terrance M, and members of the media. As you're aware, this Roundtable is a collaborative effort with the Media Association of St. Kitts and Nevis, where we have a rotation of media houses that come to sit with the Prime Minister to discuss matters of national interest. With us today, we have Mr. Devon Cornelius of ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation and Mr. Glenn Bads of SKN Newsline. The roundtable is being carried live on ZIZ Broadcasting Corporation television and radio channels and media platforms, Freedom FM, Win FM, TV Cable, Channel 40, and Tel TV in St. Martin, as well as on SKN Newsline platforms, CBN TV and radio in the British Virgin Islands and the US Virgin Islands. At this point, we'll hand over directly to the Prime Minister, who is going to give his opening statement, after which the floor will be open to the media houses to engage the Prime Minister. As you are aware, as custom, we will have the media houses state their names and before they ask the questions.
Thank you very much. Let me, of course, welcome the media representations who are here with us today. I want to take this opportunity, of course, to welcome the people and the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis who are joining us, and for those who are in other territories outside of the Federation who are also joining us. To those who have been following us, we really want to appreciate you. To all those who are definitely involved. As you know, I usually keep a round table after traveling, and I use this opportunity to update the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, our citizens, of course, in keeping with our agenda of good governance and transparency. And so I will start with a number of critical matters that, as you are aware, I typically take this opportunity to update you. Recently, I traveled to Guyana and to St. Vincent and the Grenadines for the 46th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting and the 8th CELAC Summit, respectively. These gatherings and pivotal moments in our collective efforts to foster regional cooperation, solidarity, and progress across the Caribbean and Latin American regions. From the 46th CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, at the CARICOM Heads of Government meeting, we engage in constructive dialogues centered around bolstering regional resilience, advancing sustainable development, and confronting the multifaceted challenges facing our nations. Together, we reaffirmed our commitment to the principles of democracy, good governance, and social justice that underpin the CARICOM community. The discussions revolved around the urgent need to address climate change and its profound impact on our economies, environments, and communities. The Caribbean region, particularly vulnerable to the adverse effects of climate change, we recognize the imperative of collective action to mitigate its consequences, enhance disaster preparedness, and promote sustainable development strategies. Here in St. Kitts and Nevis, we see firsthand the effects of climate change in our nation. The increased sargassum invasion in our waters destroy beach fronts right here at Koi. As I speak, prolonged droughts affecting our water supply and our crop yield. They are only a few. Moreover, we deliberated on strategies to revitalize our economies in the wake of COVID-19 pandemic, recognizing the importance of resilience, innovation, and collaboration in building our countries back to where we were and beyond. We also emphasize the significance of regional integration. We explore avenues to enhance intra-regional trade, investment, and cooperation to stimulate economic growth and foster prosperity for all our citizens. As part of this discussion included work toward free movement of all community nationals, which I will expound upon even further today, as I've seen a lot of comments surrounding this. Let me also add that Haiti and the situation in Haiti was also significantly and profoundly discussed in the presence of the Haitian President Hon, and CARICOM discussed with other partners, international and regional in how we can deal with the situation in Haiti. We also discussed cricket at the West Indies level. We had the president of the Cricket West Indies there, who also expounded on a number of critical matters. We also discussed the issue of reparations. Professor Beckles also presented at the meeting, which we greatly appreciated. We also had President Lula, president of Brazil, who was invited to that meeting. He also spoke and he spoke about a number of issues. One of the things that we discussed with him was the partial scope agreement, which existed between St. Kitts and Nevis, Guyana, and Brazil, and the reopening of the embassy here in St. Kitts and Nevis. As we know, when they shifted. So these are a plethora of matters that we discussed. I also had the opportunity on the side of the meeting to discuss with the Saudi Arabian delegation, where we discussed funding for our power station, where we are now going to seal that special agreement to get new generators and other areas that deal with our energy outlay here in St. Kitts and Nevis. We also discussed funding for the geothermal project in Nevis, which is being seriously looked at. We also discussed our representation in Saudi Arabia as far as having an embassy there and an ambassador there as well. So significant development there. I also met with the Foreign Minister of Ghana. We had a fruitful discussion as well. So all in all, I want to thank President Ali, who is now heading CARICOM, for his excellent accommodations, for the excellent organization of the meeting. And so I think Guyana did well. The meeting, of course, panned out to be very, very fruitful. Now on to CELAC. Now, CELAC, we know we had a meeting with the European Union earlier. We had a summit here in St. Vincent, the 8th summit, where leaders from Latin America and the Caribbean region convened to strengthen bonds of friendship and solidarity across our diverse nations amidst the backdrop of global challenges, including the ongoing pandemic and the economic uncertainties. The ongoing economic uncertainties, rather, we underscored the importance of working together, dialogue, and cooperation. During the summit, we reaffirmed our commitment to the principles of multilateralism, international law, or the rule of international law, and inclusive development, recognizing the importance of dialogue and cooperation in addressing regional and global issues of mutual interest. We also explored opportunities for enhanced collaboration in areas such as trade, education, health, culture, etc. I want to thank the Prime Minister, government, and people of St. Vincent again for their excellent organization of this CELAC meeting. One of the major outcomes was where the president of Venezuela and Guyana declared that they both are committed to maintaining the Caribbean, Latin American region as a region of peace. And so I want to really continue to congratulate and encourage both leaders, both presidents, on their commitment to peace and to maintaining our region as a region of peace. That was a major outcome. However, as pointed out before, we discussed many, many other matters which would be down to the benefit of all who are involved. On the home front, I guess we would have the opportunity to discuss some of the matters on the home front. And so as we develop our conversation, we will. But I want to take this opportunity to thank the Ministry of Health and its team for the control of the outbreak that we had of gastrointestinal illnesses, that's diarrhea and vomiting, and for the respiratory tract illnesses, that was COVID and influenza, which are very well controlled. Earlier, I discussed that we had some cases of dengue. We were able to control that as well. So based on our assessment in our meeting today, St. Kitts and Nevis is at a very low risk at this time for any communicable diseases. And so I want to thank, as you know, there were those who were preaching gloom and doom that COVID will break out again and all sorts of other things. But of course, we controlled it and we handled it. So I want to thank the leadership and the Ministry of Health and all those who work so hard, including collaboration with people. Of course, we have tremendous work going on at the Ministry of Health, which I'll discuss, also in the Ministry of National Security, which we can discuss further. But to wrap it up there and to give the media an opportunity to ask any questions. And this is really set up to have a dialogue as such so that we can inform the people of St. Kitts and Nevis as to what is really taking place. And then I will make a few other announcements or conclusive statements. And so I open it up to the media to ask or to dialogue with me and matters of importance to St. Kitts and Nevis and our.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good afternoon.
Back from schedule.
Then if you allow me, I'll take off my tie. I'm not usually in a tie in this one, so yes, so we can have a conversation.
Okay, so,
Yes.
Recently returned from the SLAC meeting, and as you all are very much aware, you have called basically for leaders to be active, proactive in this. What exactly would you expect from countries that are involved in SILA? Because it's a very difficult situation, and the so-called military force in which Kenya was involved in is, I'm not sure exactly where that is now.
So the situation in Haiti is a very precarious situation. We all understand that. It had been an issue that I had been or have been dealing with since I became, Prime Minister. And in going through the different meetings and the different stages of what's happening, I think we're at probably the worst stage. There had been a number of things that were contemplated, plans, discussed as far as political outcome and as far as having stabilization force to bring security back to Haiti. There were extensive meetings, including meetings with international partners and regional partners. And so, from our own perspective, what is being sought is how can you find a political solution in Haiti or pathway and bring in security to Haiti. One of the things that was discussed, again, was a multinational force where the Kenyans were involved, where you would have others from other regions, such as Benin, I think, also was involved, and then from the Caribbean region, who would also form part of that. And you will have support from international partners in terms of making sure that the necessary resources that are needed to, have a positive outcome would be available. And so that is still ongoing, so to speak. I can say to you that there's tremendous discussion presently on Haiti in resolving it. CARICOM had 2 meetings yesterday, and I think there was a statement made and CARICOM has another meeting. So there's tremendous work being undertaken, and CARICOM is very much in that mix, as part of the leadership to bring a resolution to Haiti. So there's tremendous work at this point in time going on. But in broad terms, without getting too specifics, 2 things that are being sought. 1, the political pathway, and 2, to bring security to Haiti, looking at bringing in a force to resolve the matter. I think with Kenya, it was not necessarily the army at that time. I think it was the police, because it was a security matter, not at the level of a war or anything like that. It was a matter of bringing some resolution to the instability in terms of security and so forth. Now, when we left the meeting, President Henry, who was in the meeting, I think had to travel to Kenya. And so when he were to return, you see the reports, you would have seen them, that he was being denied entry back into Haiti. And that, of course, took the whole matter of Haiti to another level. So there's tremendous negotiations going on. But those are the 2 fundamental objectives that are being sought presently when it comes to the issue of Haiti. The issue of Haiti is very important. Haiti has more people than the rest of CARICOM put together. The rest of CARICOM include countries like Jamaica, Trinidad, and Guyana. All the other islands in between, or countries in between, put together, their population, I think, is not even half of Haiti. If it's half, it's just about half. Jamaica, maybe, Guyana doesn't even have 1 million people when you think about it. So if it's half, maybe, then but Haiti's population is significantly larger than the rest of the CARICOM put together. And so if you have an unstable Haiti, it has the capacity to destabilize the region just by the sheer number of people who would be involved and if people looking to move out of Haiti in large numbers. So Haiti's stability is our stability. You cannot have an unstable Haiti in a stable region. It does not work. So we have to make sure that we achieve the goal of stabilizing Haiti. But of course, it has to be Haitian-led. Cannot be led by anyone else. Others will support, but Haitian-led. And that is what we are seeking at this time.
I'm glad you mentioned because the matter of stability of the region, because if Haiti continues as it is, we are likely to see more migrants coming our way. So what would what would be government's stance on increased numbers of Haitians that we may pick up because of rescue operations or simply because they're coming into our country in an illegal manner?
So our government, we have been battling this. We have had maybe around 3 episodes or so of illegal migrants or undocumented persons from Haiti. We have dealt with them in a humane way. I can say from the last set, my last update is that a lot of them left because I guess they were on their way to wherever and they got into some trouble at sea. They were rescued and a number of them left St. Kitts and Nevis already. Now we have to be mindful of the population of St. Kitts and Nevis. We will seek to be as humane as possible, always, and to accommodate what we can if needs be. We cannot go beyond what our capacity would allow us to. We cannot turn our back totally on a people who would be in distress. But at the same time, we have to be mindful of the limited capacity that we have to help people. And so we're keeping those 2 things in mind. And I cannot allow the country to go beyond its capacity because then you'll create another crisis in the Caribbean, which will be a crisis in St. Kitts and Nevis. And so we have to balance those 2 things, being humane, trying to help those who are in distress, while at the same time maintaining our national integrity and not go beyond the point where we cannot really sustain those who we want to help. So I would not put the country through that. And that is why it is critically important that we all act in the region to make sure that Haiti is stable. An unstable Haiti can create an unstable region. So that is why we have to, at this point, see what can be salvaged, and work as hard as possible to bring stability to that country.
Good afternoon, Mr. Prime Minister, and good afternoon to the viewers and listeners. Devon Cornelius, that is at Broadcasting Corporation. You made mention of conversations had with Saudi Arabia in terms of sourcing funding for energy projects. What is the current status of geothermal in St. Kitts and Nevis? As we understand, there will be a partnership with both islands to have this project looked at. And secondly, in your statement at the 8th Summit of CELAC Heads of State, you issued the call for our community to be a practical part of the solution to help resolve the disputes as it relates to Belize, Guatemala, and Guyana and Venezuela. So what support will St. Kitts and Nevis provide with regards to those disputes?
Right, thank you very much. And the matter of the geothermal, I want to really thank the Premier of Nevis for being very proactive on this and really seeking, even though he is the leader of the opposition, to work with the government to bring resolution to this. The IMF just released their summary. I have not touched that, but that is probably something we can touch. And the IMF is saying that St. Kitts and Nevis can become a self-sustaining, almost sustainable island state based on its energy potential. They have done the numbers and they recognize that is extremely, extremely good news. I don't think we have ever heard before a way that our country can become so sustainable, where our people can maintain their standard of living and even improve. It means, therefore, we will not always be at the whim of the fluctuation of tourism. You know, something happening in one place and your tourism is affected, the fluctuations in the CBI, the fluctuation in energy cost, as you would buy fossil fuel and so forth. But this can give you a sustainable opportunity to maintain a good nation. So I want to start with that. Remember, we had put our sustainable island state agenda together. And at the crux of it was energy. Energy really is the axle of this wheel. And to see that the IMF, in its evaluation, has reached the same conclusion in financial terms, this really gives credence to what we have developed as the sustainable island state model. So let me start there. So needless to say that we are going to be pursuing over the next couple of years very aggressively convert our country to renewable energy. Solar energy, we're going to start soon, which I'll get into. Wind energy, geothermal, because we can achieve it. Now, the thing is, we talked to the Saudis about it, Cornelius, and the Saudis sent a team here to St. Kitts and Nevis to evaluate. So they have come, they have evaluated. And now they've gone back to Saudi Arabia, and those discussions are going to continue. And in short order, we will know their position. However, we have already confirmed the $40 million that are needed for the generators at the power station, and we are going to invest in other areas to make our situation here in St. Kitts very sustainable. However, the money is to be invested in Nevis. We already have $17 million, and the Saudi is expected to help us with about $20 million to now get the geothermal. We can start where we are, but we want to have more wells. And so with that, we'll be able to really push the geothermal project forward. So if we have renewable energy, including geothermal, put St. Kitts and Nevis on an excellent path of sustainability and financial freedom. That is the financial freedom. And so we are working tirelessly hard on both things. So that's the update, basically. We continue to work hard. We are awaiting more input, financial input from the Saudi end, as far as this is concerned, but that has nothing to do with the first $40 million, which I'm going to sign this month. So there'll be a signing ceremony where I sign on that. So in St. Kitts, we're going to have these generators, we're going to have prepaid meters. We're going to, over the next 2 to 3 years, we're going to put prepaid. So you pay for the energy that you need. That's going to save the government hundreds of millions of dollars per year. So that means, therefore, that puts us in a very good position where those resources can be used for other things. But it also means we can diversify the economy more. We are less dependent on these fluctuating industries. So you'll see us. But just to say, the solar plant that we had discussed, that project will start around May. I want to say that after the elections, we renegotiated that. We had the Canadians involved because one of the companies was from Canada, and a European country involved because another company was from Europe. We actually got the cost down, which is important. And also, within the contract, we can buy the company. That is critically important. I think petitions and divisions were asking, can we buy into it? That is actually embedded in the contract, that we can buy into the company and buy it all the way down. But initially, they are going to invest $85 million US, none of which will come from the government. $85 million US. That's over $200 million EC to be invested in St. Kitts and Nevis through that one project within the next year and a half. without a dollar coming from the government of St. Kitts and Nevis, with the provision that after it's done and it's up and running, we can buy it down. Right? So it gives us the opportunity to own parts of that project.
Matter with regards to Guyana, Venezuela.
The matter with Guyana and Venezuela, as I said in my opening statement, that both presidents in the CELAC meeting agreed to maintaining the region of the Caribbean and Latin America as a zone of peace. And I want to really encourage them to continue along that path. St. Kitts and Nevis has been there from the beginning with CARICOM, doing our part. I was in the meeting in St. Vincent. I sat around the table, the discussion behind the scenes. It was a Caribbean-led, Latin American-led approach to resolving this matter. These negotiations were led by us. And so I want to really highlight how important CARICOM is. And CARICOM is very much involved again in resolving the issue in Haiti. It means that we are maturing as a nation, we are maturing as a region, we are maturing as democracies. And this means a lot. It means that as we mature, we have the opportunity to create more sustainable democracies and to become, as a result, countries that will flourish.
I just want you to clarify something.
I think he asked about Belize, Guatemala. The report came from the foreign minister for Belize, and he said that they're in a very good position in Guatemala at this time, where they are pleased and they just want to continue to make sure they solidify that. So Belize, Guatemala situation is also solid on solid grounds to resolution. At least there is no no signs that it's getting worse. So it has stabilized. Same with Guyana, Venezuela, that has also stabilized. So we are all committed to maintaining this region, a zone of peace, a region of peace. Go ahead, Matt.
Just to clarify, you mentioned there is a funding gap in the geothermal project. Now, the Saudis are bringing what resources? Is that for the build out of a power plant, or is this just for drilling?
For the funding gap.
But what does it cover?
Yeah, it covers the drilling of the wells. That is what it basically covers.
Still going to need an additional sum
to build out
actually
the plant.
do the plant.
Yes. Now, the reason why that is critical, because once you get those wells, then the whole project becomes marketable, very well marketable. You'll have people rushing in who would want to build out the plant. By then, when all the wells are built, and you know how much energy you'll have there, we are sure that then companies will start to be approaching. Nations might start to be approaching. How can we have access to this energy as well? So the first thing is to get those wells, demonstrate the energy that exists, and then after that, take it to who will be the best to build out the plant.
The second part for clarification, in regards to the solar energy project. Now, you're talking about buying the company over a period of time.
Buying into the project, yes.
Buying into the project.
Yeah.
The period of time is what, 20 years in terms of what the...
Yeah, I think it's 20 years.
About 20 years.
Yes.
And it's one of the key features is about battery storage facilities.
Correct.
But we all know that this technology, in terms of batteries, they don't last for a very long time. So are you going to ensure that when we take over that facility, that we have a basically new or modern energy facility takeover rather than a defunct situation?
Right, so I don't know if you'll be in that situation. It's just like anything else. You buy a new car and you have to keep it going. So you buy into it with the technology that is available, but there's a plan to make sure that you replace the storage over time. Technology will improve. Already in St. Kitts and Nevis, there is a technology that does not use lithium battery to store solar energy. They use high capacitors. I'm going to do the turning on of that cube next week. That is a new type of technology, but St. Kitts is going to be one of the first places where that is introduced. And it is because of our leap towards a sustainable island state and to use the technology available. So at some point, the technology may not even be battery. And we already have an example of that here, where we store solar energy not through a battery, but through a high-performing capacity type of system. It's a very technical term, but already the technology is advancing from batteries. But the batteries, I don't know how long you say they last, but part of the plan already inbuilt in it is how you maintain those batteries. But you expect the technology to improve as you go along as well, to the point where you may not need batteries.
Afternoon, Sharma Matthew. Prime Minister, this morning, 6 Christopher Neves. Can you elaborate on the strategic importance to the police force and how will they?
Right, thank you very much. I would say it's really a total of 7 vehicles, but one of them will come, I think, is either later today or tomorrow. And of course, a number, 2 of them will go to Nevis, brand new, and the other 5 will stay here. Well, basically, with respect to the strategic plan of national security, part of it is to make sure that surveillance and coverage of the country is well enhanced. So that will allow the law enforcement officers to be more effective in terms of coverage in the communities and so forth. And so we expect that to redound in better security, but apart from better security, but engender in our people a greater sense of security. So with respect to the vehicles, is mainly to make sure that law enforcement is effectively covering both islands, St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is why we made the investment. We have made a lot of other investment in national security. We just graduated 26, I think, new recruits. That's the first training. And of course, we are doing significant work at the training center. We are now constructing a 2-story building at the training center as part of our capital project. We have expanded our CCTV. We're upgrading the technology. The technology is going to be well advanced. We are already seeing benefits from having that. We opened the Deep Bay police station, which was shut down for some time. And the other thing is, we are doing some work at the Charlestown police station as well. Nevis is obviously an integral part of this. As Prime Minister, federal government is responsible for Nevis as well. So we take care of everything, including the expenses of the security forces on Nevis. And then the other thing we are going to do is the training center that is next to NEMA. We have started some work there. We have cleaned it out already, and we are going to be developing that over the medium term. So we have invested significantly in national security, and we'll continue to invest to make sure that our people are as safe as possible. We have not only invested in the national security apparatus as security forces, but we have also invested from the social perspective in dealing with issues of security as well. So yes, the vehicles are just part of the significant investments that we have made in national security, whether it be human resource development, getting equipment, structures, infrastructures, and getting experts to help with it. And I will say, for the first time in a long time, the high command of the police force is fully decked out, including the addition of an extra ACP, because community policing will be a fundamental pillar of policing here in St. Kitts and Nevis. It wouldn't be a by the way type of activity by the police, but will now be a fundamental pillar of the police service to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
The issue of full free movement of CARICOM nationals, we've seen media reports regarding Antigua and Barbuda's position, Bermuda, Barbados. What is St. Kitts and Nevis' position on the full free movement of CARICOM nationals?
Mm-hmm. Right. So I want to say that, of course, is a discussion that was held. But St. Kitts and Nevis' position is that we have been, anything we do will be in the best strategic interest of St. Kitts and Nevis. Let me put that forward. Nothing we will do we will do to the detriment of St. Kitts and Nevis. Whether it's on the migration issue, in terms of Haiti as you asked, or whether it's on the issue of free movement. So St. Kitts and Nevis' position is, we are obviously asking for more data, more information. How will this be implemented? Bring our own issues forward, or will this affect St. Kitts and Nevis? Those are the discussions going on. But in principle, you would want to say integrated region. However, it has to be done in a way where each country will see better and not be at in a worse position, so to put it, or in a position where the citizens are not convinced that it's to the benefit for their country. And therefore, we are looking at it closely and we are monitoring it. But to say that St. Kitts and Nevis is still a part of the process, but we will be a responsible partner in all of it. But we are making sure that nothing that is done will be to the detriment of our country, and by extension, to the detriment of the region.
This question is based on one of the recommendations which recently made by the IMF report, and it's to do with strengthening the financial system. Now, what measures are being taken to ensure that all banks meet the regulatory minimum provisions and capital as established by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank? And how is the government addressing the issue of long-standing non-performing loans, and what progress has been made in that?
Right. So you ask a very fundamental question in terms of the regulations. Of course, National Bank and other banks come under the regulation of the central bank. But I can say that there has been improvement with respect to complying. National Bank, this year was able to pay a dividend. It is complying. We know that over the years, especially, we saw what happened with the type of risky investment that was practiced and led National Bank to a loss, and to the point where I think for the first time in its history, it could not pay dividend. We understand that. We have strengthened that. We are now investing in the National Bank, as it has reported, is investing in more stable, more loans that are safer, stable and safer, and not the risky up and down. I think National Bank is also approaching this with doing more commercial banking. To a great extent, a lot of that had not been coming forth. It had been a lot maybe of investment. But to say that, again, is one of the ways in strengthening. The non-performing loans, National Bank is engaging those who have those loans and to bring resolution to those financial facilities so that they can have a stronger bank at the end of the day. So one, more commercial activity. Two, investing in better instruments overseas if they have to. And three, engaging those with these non-performing loans to seek to bring resolution. Of course, this is a humongous task, but they're on the pathway to resolving a lot of these matters. Now, when you talk about the banking sector, for example, we have been complying with what have been regulations, not only locally, but internationally. St. Kitts has not been on a blacklist. We other countries in the Caribbean have, been on blacklists, but we are not on a blacklist, which means that we are complying as far and as much as possible. So that, I would say, speaks well to our banking here in St. Kitts and Nevis. The sector is stable generally, but we have work to do, and we continue to do the work. But while you talk about that, the Development Bank, which is a different situation, we know the situation that the Development Bank ended in with a deficit of debt of 333 million EC dollars, over $250 million. It was left really in shambles by the last administration. That is a fact. No audit had been done since 2018 And so it's difficult for the development bank to refinance because there is hardly an institution that wants to engage the development bank because it does not have an audit. And this is before COVID. Why was not the bank audited? Why did the past government refuse to audit the development bank and run it down to the rubbles, to the point where you're having trouble of maintaining student loans and so forth? And we have to be taking money from the central government in order to seek to prop up the development. And we are saying that that should never happen. And we want to put things in place to make sure that no matter who is in government, they will not be allowed to run down a bank like this. It was irresponsible. The corruption that was uncovered, those things should not be practiced in the development bank ever again. But to say that we are strengthening, as part of our good governance agenda, these financial institutions.
As Minister of National Security, on the issue of illegal marriages and sham marriages, we know that a committee had been put together to investigate that matter. What is the current status of the investigation or investigations into the matter?
Right. So I think the investigation or the investigations, as you say, Cornelius, they are coming very, very close to the end. Needless to say that we found many examples of sham marriages. This could not have been just carried out by the people who perpetrated it. But it had to mean that the government of the day supported such. That is sad, extremely sad. It was facilitated.
The IMF 2024 Article 4 mission to St. Kitts and Nevis. They said in one of the sectors, and I'm going to quote, CBI has performed well in recent years, but there is scope to further improve integrity of the program. The authorities have improved the governance of the program by advancing CBI legislation and creating the CBI Board of Governance to improve oversight. The transparency and accountability of the CBI program could be enhanced further by publishing an annual financial report on the CBI unit's operations and key data on applications, end quote. Now, given your administration's promoted good governance, transparency, openness, and so forth, and based on the experience that the media houses have had in St. Kitts in getting information, would it be correct to say that the CBI program is exempt from public scrutiny? And if it is not, what actions will you take this year to bring it into compliance with the ideals of transparency?
Well, I would say, Bert, that's a good question. I think you read the first part of the statement, apart from the heading, where they mentioned that there has been improvement, significant improvement, in terms of the legislation and in terms of setting up board of governors and so forth. So we are correcting any matter that has to do with the governance for more transparency and openness of the program. As I said before, we had to go in and do a complete audit of the program, see what's going on, and that is still ongoing. So what the IMF is mentioning is that we have done work, as I promised we would do, to the point where I think St. Kitts and Nevis has some of the toughest legislation when it comes around to the CBI program. The last part now is, as we set it up, how are we now going to relate the information to the public? And that is the last part that we're actually working on. Why is it important? If you look at our budget and the audit report, the numbers from the CBI program are actually in there. The financials of the CBI program are already being reported because you have the budget and you have the audit report. They have to come in the budget. So if you look in the budget, 2023, 2024, you will see that information, the financials. The other part they're talking about, the nationalities and so forth, that we are actually putting in place. And I'm not just saying that. They said we have changed the legislation. They said we have put a board of governance in place. And they're saying that we need to do some more, which we, of course, have done a lot, and we will do more. What does that question bring you to Mr. Bat. If we have done all of this, and this had never done before, you have to ask yourself the obvious question. What was being done in the previous administration? What was being done in the previous administration? Have questions been asked? I remember you asked a question, somebody asked a question, and they were basically told, it is not your business. I'm sure you remember the question.
Yes.
And the answer to that question.
I totally agree that your administration has done a lot in terms of the legislative aspects of it.
Right.
But remember that you also came into office carrying that mandate, transparency, and good governance.
Which we are doing.
Okay.
It's not going to be done overnight, of course. But first, you have to get that legislative framework. Without good, strong legislative framework, you can't do anything bad. Everything is fluff. If somebody come and tell you, for example, we are going to put a new policy in place, where is the law to support that policy? If there is no law, it is fluff. It is just like in the last go-around with Unity, when there was some Charlestown Accord. And the then Prime Minister said, this does not have any groundings because it was not law. And therefore, what we are doing is creating the legislative foundation and framework for all of this to happen. You have a board now. You have all these legislative changes that anybody want to touch them, they have to go into the parliament. And so it's a process. We're not even in office for 2 years, and we have done so much to really change it. We have changed legislation twice, SRNOs, and put in a board of governors, and we're advancing to make sure that this is part and parcel of what we're seeking to achieve when it comes to the issue of good governance and transparency. So I want to say we have done a tremendous amount, and we have created the legislative foundation, and we are moving ahead for more and more changes that will comply even more with our own standard. That standard of ours, our own standard for us is also important. But let me say that we will never ever compromise the security of the program. This is a separate argument. We always strive to make sure that the security, and we have strengthened the security of the program. We have increased our cost. Our cost is the highest in the region, and we can discuss that further. We have put in place a security, we are putting in place a security officer who will be based in Europe to monitor our passport. Nobody else is doing these things. And so I'm proud that we have done a significant amount of work, and we will continue to do the work until we get what we want to make sure that the program complies fully with what we want for good governance and integrity in public life and so forth. And that is part and parcel of our overall governance agenda.
I want to come back to that aspect of the increase in the cost of our program compared to perhaps some of the others in the region. But I want to also move on to another part of the IMF concluding statement. And it spoke about our social security system, where it noted that if nothing is done in the next 2 decades, the Social Security Reserve Fund could be depleted. What kind of steps is the government now taking to address the Social Security situation, which I believe has been, let's say, the football been kicked down the road several times under different administrations?
I would say we were not waiting for the IMF to mention that. One of the earliest things I did in this administration, or what we did, is that we had a meeting between Social Security, our actuary, and the stakeholders at Marriott, and the media was invited. So the media, I will ask to recall my words then, to let our people know I'm not reacting to anything that is said. We already know that the solvency is up to that time. But a matter of fact, it's one of the best in the Caribbean, let me say that. And I must always give credit to our first national hero and his team from the 1970s who put Social Security in place, even against great opposition. But now we have one of the best funds in the whole region. It was vision. We have reached the point now where we have to look at it. So we have brought in the actuary. The actuary has done this work. Just I had a communication from the director. I've said to them that this year they have to now go out to the people and educate the people about social security and what we will do to strengthen social security. So when they come to you this year, it would not be because they were reacting. It would be because they were doing prudent planning and evaluation over the last year or so to make sure that they can now go to the public and explain to the public and get the public's buy-in as to the changes that will be necessary in order to keep social security going. And so we are ahead of the game when it comes to that. So this report highlights the fact that something needs to be done, but it also would point to the fact, if we were remembering, that we have started to do work and significant work with respect to that. And then you can reach out if you want to the Director of Social Security, Mr. Lord, and he can give you that information. But the actuarial report is done. That is why the IMF, I sure, might have consulted that as well and look at it, because we know these things. And I've spoken to it. I've spoken to it multiple times, but I think because now it's in the IMF report, it's now on people's minds more than it would have been before. But that is fine. But just to let you know, we're addressing the matter. Mm-hmm.
On the matter of national security, some time back, it was made aware that a Chinese national who is also a national of St. Kitts and Nevis was connected with fraud in the United Kingdom. She allegedly went to the UK using a fake name on a St. Kitts and Nevis passport. Is her passport still active?
Right. So I would clearly say that anytime we work with Interpol, and we are very responsible. Any citizen, whether it be citizen who was born here or by whatever means you become a citizen, we are going to make sure that if you break the law of any other country, that we will take the necessary measures. And so we took the necessary measure with respect to that person. And the passport is deactivated. So I can clearly say that. That's one. The second matter I will point out, I think that person might have gotten their citizenship in 2017, right? So it's not just a recent person. It was 2017 under the previous administration. The reason why I say that is that people not think that this is just a recent occurrence. Not that it can't happen with anybody else, but it's just that when people try to twist the story as if this is something that happened with the present government, then I have to point out that it is not so. However, being very responsible, we made sure that we have to act to protect any other country or any other nation. As a matter of fact, we have made even more recent changes, not just for the CBI program, but make sure we protect any other country from any citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, irrespective. We have now a very advanced type of passport, one of the most advanced that they are making presently. And so we continue to strengthen our security. As I told you, we are putting a security officer in Brussels. We'll cover Europe, the UK, and so forth, making sure that any action that is to be taken is taken, and to make sure that we say to them that we are in the game to protect ourselves and to protect you. And so that is part of the strengthening part of our citizenship by investment.
On the minimum wage increases, because that too was also one of the recommendations made in the IMF report for the government to assess the impact of the increase. What considerations are being made to mitigate any potential negative effects of the minimum wage increase on the economy and the work?
Right. So when you look at it, I think part of what the IMF is saying is how competitive you would be with respect to your other partners. I think that is from the perspective from which they look at it. If you ask us, the workers had gone through a lot. People have gone through some difficult times in the world today. We looked at it, we put a task force together to study it, we consulted, we did all that we had to do to see what would be the best approach we can have with respect to this. And this is where we lie at 4:30. We intend to continue to study it, to see how it would affect investments and so forth. So far, we are not seeing any of that. We want to create an environment of investment. Not only does wage to me is part and parcel of it, but should not be the most significant. How effective is your business climate? Why don't we improve that? How industrious are your people? Why don't we improve productivity of our people? Do you have access to energy, cheap energy like renewable energy? Are we providing that for people? Do we have laws to facilitate this? So we are looking at all the other aspects that attract investments to any country that we must improve upon. It cannot be at the expense of just wages. What are you going to do? Pay people next to nothing all the time to be attractive? Who are you attracting? How about we tell them, look at Singapore, for example. Their wages and salaries are much higher than us. But companies are flocking there. Why? Because they're saying, even though wages and salaries are high, we get our bang for the buck because ease of doing business, training and preparation of the workforce, laws to ease our activity as a business. And so productivity. So energy cost, technology availability. So we have to look at all the other factors that make a country attractive to become that so that we can put our people in the best position to work for a reasonable living. That is why it is important, because we are bringing forward a productivity agenda. The task force is already being put together. Because if St. Kitts and Nevis is to continue on a pathway to improvement, we must improve our productivity. You cannot have a population where people are not productive and expect to live well. Even the Bible had something to say about that. By the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread. It doesn't mean you have to go out in the field and work, but it's saying that you have to be productive in order to eat. It's on the individual level, the community level, and the country level. That is what we want to bring to our people. Be productive, work, put in the time, put in the industriousness, put in the mental power, the innovation, those things that make you competitive, and you will see the reward. If you don't put in those things, you will not see the reward. Whether I'm here or not, it is a law of life. He who puts in or she who puts in the work will reap more. There's another part of the Bible where one man was given, I think, 1 talent, and some others were given 4 and much more. He got 1 and hid it. The others who got more multiply on it. And when the giver of the talents returned, he said, "Where's your talent?" He hid it. Took it away and gave it to the man who had multiplied his talents. It's a lesson to us. Whatever we have to multiply on it, work on it, because it cannot be that you're not producing and being innovative and using your talents and expect to live well. If it's one thing I want to leave with the people of St. Kitts and Nevis in the Federation, if we don't become more productive and innovative, we will not be able to survive well in the 21st century, whether I'm here or not. Don't allow anybody to fool you. And so I want to encourage that as much as possible. And it shouldn't be that people should be paid very little so as to attract an investment. And it means, therefore, that we'll continue to be a subjugated country and a subjugated people. At which point we're going to say as a people that we don't want to live like that anymore. That we're going to wait for some savior from some other country to tell us how we should do it, why we can't do it ourselves. They don't have more brain power than us. Of course, we're going to collaborate with people, work with people, but we have to come to the table with something. Can't always be expecting somebody to deliver something. And if we don't change or improve in that, rather, we will have tremendous difficulty in the 21st century. But if you read the IMF report, it speaks to how St. Kitts and Nevis can become that through energy independence, renewable. So we have the answer. So it's now us now to work towards that. We have the answer now.
But it's along those lines too that my next question is geared, because yes, the energy pillar foundation is critical to this whole thing. In between now and when we get to that stage, there's a lot of things could happen.
Yeah.
So my question is this: government cannot do everything.
No.
Private sector of this country has to do its part as well. Right? How do you get the private sector to re-engineer itself, get revitalized, and get involved in the development of the country through investment, either by individual companies or by joint ventures? Are there any incentives that could stimulate this whole private sector-led growth that I think is necessary if this country is going to move forward?
Right. Very good question, Mr. Bad. I spoke to the Chamber of Commerce and Industry while I was in Guyana. I did not want to miss the meeting. And so we discussed a number of critical matters. One including we have not carried the taxes back up. We have not increased the taxes. The taxes as incorporated and unincorporated. Because we say, okay, let's keep the taxes low as an incentive to the business, and let's see how they would use that to invest and expand. That was one of the ways. The other way that we are looking at is how can we encourage business to go into renewable energy and have a feed-in tariff where they can sell that energy back to the government. They satisfy their need or they sell to the government to create enough energy, and if they would buy it back at a much lower rate to help the country to transition. So the private sector has a significant role in all of this, but we wanted to create the environment of low taxes and other opportunities in transition to energy. Because energy is one of the things, one of the greatest expenses that they have. If you look at them, we are paying the FBC for the companies presently. Millions. One of the things the IMF says that we have been able to manage the inflation. That was part of the inflationary strategy as well. So how can we lessen the operative costs or the operational costs of these companies so that whatever cost they pass on to our citizens is at the least price or cost that is possible. So we have, on the taxes, we have the incentive that is coming when it comes to energy. We have supported the energy costs over the last number of years. When I traveled for the first time to the Afrexim Bank in Barbados, we went with the Chamber. And I intend to include the Chamber and other business areas in St. Kitts and Nevis or other business organizations to be a part of what the government is doing. And so we want to include them in discussions and trips so that they can make those private sector connections as well. For example, if you have a company that wants to come in from Saudi Arabia, why can't they make contact with a private company here so that that connection can help that facilitation into St. Kitts and Nevis? And so the private sector has to be a part of it because no government alone can do it. Let me tell you the significant error that was made by the last government. They were killing tourism. You know that we had the least growth in tourism since COVID because the government refused to remove the restrictions when they could have removed them. That is why we took until 2024 to recover, when others were seeing greater than expected numbers in 2022 and 2023 because they had lifted the unnecessary restrictions much earlier. Some countries, of course, didn't close down at all, like USVI, but other countries removed their restrictions as quickly as possible so that they could have gotten back to the business of tourism and other economic activity. That is what hurt our growth. We could have grown much more. That is why the first action I took, Mr. Bat, was to open up the country on the 7th of August, 2022. And if you read the IMF report, I think, refers to it. That was a significant decision made. That one was a significant one. And the other one was a CBI to change the laws and the regulations so we could have engendered in the international partners a sense of confidence in St. Kitts and Nevis. Otherwise, I can say here, Bat, we would have lost our visa access. I can talk about it now because we have done significant work, but we would have lost our visa access. And that is why we continue to strengthen the program. And that is why I'm encouraging the other countries to strengthen their programs as well. Today, I can say we met 5 prime ministers, we all met, and we have come up with an MOU led by the OECS authority, which I have signed. I signed yesterday, and we intend to wrap up the signature and to get it back out. Those who will sign on to Europe to show them that we are serious when it comes to regulations and management of this vital program. The other mistake we made with the CBI, apart from not strengthening the laws when they should have and so forth, was to bring the economy to depend too much on the CBI. What happened to tourism? That is why you see we went quickly to expand tourism. More flights, seeking to get more ships. If not more ships, more passengers. That is why we want to end the seasonal aspect to tourism, and we are carrying down the flights down to August. So only September and October we want to become the dull season, while hotels and everybody is preparing for the active season. That is why we are investing so heavily in agriculture. That is why we are investing so heavily in energy. Because if we get that energy plant and it gives us 15 to 20 megs, and you bring down the price by less than half of what we're paying now, that's hundreds of millions of dollars we are saving. Puts us in a better position. So you ask about between now and then, we have actually started the process. So we expect that while we wean off one, we actually catching up in another area. Because we expect the energy to be coming from the plant within a year and a half. Plus, we will have some other inputs that we are seeking as well. All the time, we are expanding other aspects of the economy. So just to let you know, investments, that's just one. We have the hospital, which is a 50 to 60 million US dollar investment. The solar plant is a 80 plus million dollar investment. We have the housing, which is a 30 plus million dollar investment. We have the hotel, which is a $100 million investment. And we have some more investments coming, which I'll speak to in a month's time. So when we meet again, I will update you on about 1, 2, 3 other investments that are on the point of signing right now. I can speak of the Performing Arts Center, but that is going to happen. But the other 2, I will hold off until the end of March. Yes.
Generally, you're saying that the private sector in St. Kitts and Nevis could step up and play a greater role in the whole development process.
And we want to partner with them for them to be a part of it. Because the transition to renewable energy, the private sector can be a fundamental part of that. They have resources where they can convert their businesses to green renewable energy and help us with the transition much sooner. And they can invest in that and feed it to our power station. And in that sense, we will have green energy so that the energy cost for all of us will be lower. And that will be a significant point to attract foreign direct investments.
Earlier, what measures would the government put in place to prevent the situation as it relates to the Chinese national using a fake name on a St. Kitts Nevis passport? And you mentioned that you participated in meetings as it relates to reparations. Where do you stand on that matter, reparations?
Right. I've said where I stand, where I stand on reparations over and over. Just to reiterate that I think reparations is just. I would like to point out, do you know that the slave owners got money? The slave owners were compensated. The only people who have not gotten any money in this were the slaves. Everybody else got money except the victim. It's like you brutalized me and then you got some compensation and then the brutalized got nothing. So let's put that first. So money was passed. It just was not passed to the victims. And we are saying that what the resources should be passed to the victims as well. And so my position on reparations is not revenge. There's no revenge in us. We don't hate anybody. Not ill feeling in terms of what the past. Right now it's time to move on. But there must be justice because we cannot correct ills without justice. And all we are seeking through reparation is justice. It's reparatory justice instead of just reparations. So it's bigger than just financial resources or any type of resources. It's not just reparations. It is reparations, reparation justice, right? So that is what we are seeking in the end. So that is my position on it. We know other countries receive reparations. I'm sure Japan got reparations after the World War. Germany got special facilities to rebuild. Germany had to pay money to the Jews, you know. And so we know that the idea of reparations is not a strange idea. The only people not getting reparations are us. Everybody else seems like they have gotten something. Look at the indigenous people of Canada. They just got $25 billion. All aware of that? The indigenous people of Canada just got 25 billion Canadian dollars as a part of their reparatory justice program. And so it's a matter of justice for us and nothing more than that, but people deserve justice. Yeah, so the measures being taken, one, we have one of the toughest, stronger passport. Two, we have make very clear that whatever name is used, any name change, all of it is reflected. We reflect it, but we're going to reflect it even more. And we have deepened our due diligence to make sure that this does not happen. People can use fake, but we are putting those measures in place. Stronger passport, more due diligence, more consultation with international partners. And our international agent, security agent, add a layer of.
Okay. Prime Minister, yesterday you would have toured JNF.
Yes.
Can we get an update on the ongoing work there?
Well, yes.
So,
Yes. Thanks. JNF, as you know, if you go there, Mr. Bad, any one of us, is the most work being done at the hospital at any time since it was built. Let's get that. So everything that is being done at the hospital are things that were not done for a long time. The hospital was leaking badly for years. So we engaged the Republic of China, Taiwan, and they actually had to import a special material to deal with it. So we had to wait about 6 weeks as they imported this type of material from Taiwan itself to actually deal with the leaking roof. It has been working tremendously well. That's one. So that was a major undertaking. The second one was the morgue. The morgue was in dilapidated condition. Sure, if any of you would have gone there because of investigative purposes and you see the morgue, you'll be so disappointed. Somebody told me once they're standing in the morgue and the water coming through the roof, dropping down in the morgue. We have put an end to that. If you were at the hospital between the eye clinic and go down to the kitchen, you couldn't tell the difference between if a roof is there or a sky. A lot of holes in the old galvanized. We have changed that roof. We have changed a major part of the roof to the back. Significant investment. The other thing that we have done is we have bought 2 heavy-duty, very modern washing machines. Because you would hear people complain about linen for years, no sheet. So we said we want to put an end to that. We bought pillows. These sound simple. In the hundreds. We put for the first time air-conditioned units on the ward, especially medical and surgical and so forth, where people tend to be more in bed. First time, because of the increase heat. We also went and invest in a new CT scan machine, which we have already bought. Right now, we have sent Mr. Joel Patrick, one of our most senior radiographers. He's now in St. Lucia, receiving training on the use of this very modern CT scan machine. So he's there presently. We have started the work to build the housing for the MRI machine. You go there now, work is going on for the MRI machine. We have reintroduced a fluoroscopy in the hospital, which is a special type of imaging, like X-ray. To put it in simple terms, they help with imaging, X-ray type. The technicians left maybe 2 weeks ago. And we have brought in very up-to-date anesthesiology machine. The other day, one of the machines, I think, went down. And there was some talk about anesthesiology. The machines will go down all the time. What was never compromised was our ability to do emergency surgeries. You here have these cameras, they can go down, your watch can go down. But we have backup. And not only that, we made sure that if the worst case scenario happens, we can still do emergency surgeries. All these things we are doing at the hospital, we're going to reopen the private ward. The most dialysis machines we have ever had in St. Kitts and Nevis, we can rotate them in and out. We fixed the water problem at the hospital to a great extent. Change out the toilets at the hospital. We have now introduced the most specialists the hospital has ever had at any one time in its history. We have neurology, never had that before. That's doctors who deal with nerves and brain and strokes and so forth. A stroke is a problem. We have 4 internists, the most we ever had. We have 4 government hired internists, plus a private one, the most we have ever had at any one time. Today, I got a note that the ICU is empty, and people are thinking that the ICU is empty because you have such improved care in terms of the specialists at the internal medicine level. The patients are not reaching to ICU. They said they have never seen, they said it's been a long time that they have seen no patients in ICU because of the improved care at the lower level. We have now 2 pediatricians, which we have had before, but this is in concert with all the other things. We have 3 surgeons, Dr. Matt Grant and his wife, a Kittian who has come home to serve. 3 surgeons working for the government. I think that's the most the government has ever had at one time, working for the government. 2 psychiatrists. And now we have put up the hospital a psychologist, a PhD psychologist at JNF that started 2 weeks ago to deal with the mental health matters that we are dealing with. We have brought in histopathologists, pharmacists, nurse specialists. The hospital right now, in terms of equipment and specialists, is in the best place it has ever been in its history. And just now, we are going to introduce medical assistants in triage area. Medical assistants. So as soon as you come to the hospital and you go inside, you don't have to wait. There will be a doctor there, or a medical assistant, or a nurse whose job it is just to see patients when they come to the triage. They will not be involved in treatment in the back unless there's a crisis, so that you don't have this long wait. And they can be able to tell you, well, you have to wait 4 hours because all you got is a scratch on your hand. Well, we got people over here with asthma and stroke and heart attack and so forth. So that it's not a first come, first serve basis. It's based on severity of illness. So if you go to the hospital, we are fixing up the foyer. So you're going to see a modern foyer when you get introduced into the hospital. So why are we investing so heavily? Because I think healthcare needed to be improved and our people deserve it. So we are really, when last you heard any issue about blood bank and blood, that had been an ongoing issue that we have resolved. So therefore, I would like to say, with respect to the hospital, that we have done tremendous work and the work continues. And just now, we are going to build a brand new hospital. So, but we don't want this hospital to run down. When that hospital is built and people go there, we'll use this building for many other things. So we want St. Kitts to be a model. We started a renal transplant program. So we are recruiting people now, and I've introduced it to the OECS so that they can have renal transplant. And then the next thing we're going to introduce is sickle cell service. The Germans are going to be here with us in a month to start a specialized clinic to cure sickle cell. And then we're going to introduce cardiovascular advanced treatment in terms of echocardiogram stress test to see if the heart have blockages around it within the next 6 months. So all that is already in train. This is not theory and talk. The results are there to show for themselves.
So, in this matter, could I say then that similar to how we have done in the education field with these offshore education institutions, would it be safe to say that St. Kitts and Nevis could find itself in a position where we, let's say, a medical center for certain services within the region? Would it be fair to say that?
Yes. We want to make it a region for sickle cell advanced. It will be the most advanced clinic we set up in the Caribbean, because no other area is curing sickle cell in the region. We want to become the center of excellence for that. We want people to come from throughout the Caribbean to St. Kitts for sickle cell care. The other one we'll be offering is renal care. There's some others who do renal care, but we want to also be a center for that as well. So in the near future, those are two areas in which I think St. Kitts and Nevis can be a referral center for countries around. You have sickle cell, go St. Kitts. You have issues with kidneys, go to St. Kitts. And that, I think, we will start to make our mark.
Mr. Prime Minister, recently in the National Parliament, there was the adoption by resolution of the report recommendations that were provided by the Salaries Review Commission. Now, obviously, no matter what side of the political fence you're on, there are going to be disagreements as to the timing and all of that. But one of the things I was wondering about, because it has come up again, is the situation in which the report was done under the previous administration exceeded the 3-year period of review. And some are asking, why didn't this government do or commission its own review? Basically, because the economic environment would have changed since COVID-19, and perhaps the recommendations would have been different to what they are in this old commission report. What's your stake on that?
Right. So you read the IMF report. What does it say about the recovery of the economy? No, it's back to it.
By the end of this,
It will be back to 2019 level, right? Right. Good. So we know that. Good. But that is not the main issue either there. They introduced in the budget of 2021 for 2022 these recommendations. I have put it out there. I don't know if you have reviewed it. Have you seen it?
but I've seen it. But what I'm saying is that
I understand.
the resolution was
Yes,
adopted.
I understand what you're saying. Right. I understand what you're saying. They put it in the budget. Correct? In 2021 for 2022, when the economy was worse. So I asked myself the question, what are you really talking about? If you introduce this in 2021 for 2022. At that time when we sit, we told the FS, we will not allow the payment to go through until the economy improves. And on top of that, we said that cannot go through until we study what we can do for the people, because they had nothing else in there for the people, except after the elections, they were hoping to just pay themselves. That is why they put it in there for 2022.
Listen, that they're accusing you of the same thing they're accusing them.
But you have the facts, Bert. The fact is there. You can easily see in the budget, and you can easily see in the allocation exactly what they did in 2021, 2022. And nobody asked about it. Nobody asked, why is it you put this? We're just coming out of COVID and you put that for yourself and nothing for the people. Why is it nobody asked? It missed all the reporters. It missed most of the population.
We must realize now we have a more proactive media environment
Okay,
now.
good. All right, Mr. Man. But they missed everybody, because when I put it out, people asking, is that real? I say, yes, they sneaked it in there. So when the past governor, God bless his soul, brought it up to me because the report is to send to him, I said, Governor, I cannot allow this payment to go through. He said, but he had accepted the report. It was a good report. I said, I cannot, I want to see what is being done for the people. We have to do something for the people before I push this through, even though the money was budgeted for in 2021. And that is why I'm asking, why are people being so politically hypocritical? You put it in there. We decided you can't activate that. We said, no, that cannot be activated. And so we held it back. Let's see what we can do for the people. No minimum wage discussed. Look at all the measures we have done. Let me look at something here, guys. And the reason why, Mr. Bat, I want to read it, because that's a very good question you have asked, This is the reason why I want to read it. Look at what we have done to the people since. And I will go through a list of things. Allow me to do that. 1, minimum wage after 10 years. 2, recalculation of the GAE long service gratuity. Under the previous government, they recalculated the GAE gratuity down to 1/3 of what it used to be. We have reinstated that. You know, we had this ceremony up at Nemo. 3, pension for GAE workers, which we are finalizing. Nothing was in the pipeline for them. That is why we are now putting in the regulations and so forth to get it done. So I want to say to all of our GAE workers, just give us a little bit of more time as we get this right. Nothing for them. A further increase for civil servants. We paid the independence workers bonus. We did the reset to get people back their electricity and all of that. We did the savings investment portfolio for our young people, which is also in the process and will be rolled out this year. This is a significant amount of work that we have done for our people with the improvement of the economic condition. But if we have done this, followed them and done this in 2022, they budget for it in 2021. And when you hear, I mean, it's laughable. When you hear those who perpetrated this talking about it, if I were them in cricket, you know, bad, you play cricket, there are some balls you just say, leave alone. That's a good ball, leave alone. And move on. Let the next ball come. Right? And that is why I highlighted to the people that all the things they talk about, had they considered them, would they have put it in the budget? The budget is a legal document. That is why I say you have to have strong laws to determine if somebody is serious or not. If somebody had said it, you could say, man, they can say, I was just talking. But you weren't just talking, you voted on it. They voted in the parliament to pass the increase of salary for them. So go back and check it, Mr. Bat. And I put it out there and I probably will send it to you. But you know, for you to pass a budget, you have to vote on it. So they did vote on it. So I would like to say, so we decided then on those critical things. It had come to the point also where the wages and salaries of PSs and directors were higher than ministers. I don't think it was ever intended to be like that. But would you say that the PSs don't deserve their increase? Deserve their increase if they work. But I think the reasonable man would think, okay, also, you have a minister, a PS, a director, and they're making more than a minister. I don't know how you would see that, but I think people would think that that, you know, had become an anomaly. That is another aspect to it. But nonetheless, to say that we had determined that all of this had to be done before what was budgeted for. And that is why we held off and said, no, we're not accepting.
One final question. Last year, you had indicated that you were pursuing the acquisition of some radar centers to assist the country in surveilling the coastal waters and so forth. What has become of that?
That is on its way. That is in progress. So that is supposed to be completed by the end of the second quarter this year. So it's on its way. And it's in collaboration with the United States government. And it's on its way. Yes. In the meantime, we have put some security measures in place to deal with better border security as part of our own local response to the need. But that technology is on its way.
One final question by Ms. Matthew of SKNIS, and then the Prime Minister will give his closing remarks before we conclude the session.
It's just a quick update.
Yes.
Recently, you spoke to the reopening of the pharmacy at the Mary Charles Hospital. Do you have any word on that?
Yes, we intend to open that pharmacy next week. We have contracted a new pharmacist. The pharmacy is being renovated. It's very, very near completion. And so the people in that region should expect that service once again. We actually want to expand the service, not just to as service that will be twice a week, but we are seeking to see how we can get that service to be 5 days per week so that our citizens in that region can have access to pharmacy services. And so I'm happy. That is one of the upgrades of our healthcare delivery. The other upgrade is the Carding Home. As you know, if you go there, we nicely painted it. There was a room called the Strong Room where we have difficult patients. We humanized it, and that has been completed. And now we are doing this grand scope of work for roofing and so forth. We are also bringing in nurses whose job it is to just take care of our patients at the Carding Home. They will not be working at the hospital or any other place. Those nurses will be placed permanently at the Carding Home. I worked at the Carding Home as a doctor. I remember as a doctor when nobody used to want to go to the Carding Home. When I just came back from study, I said, I will go to the Carding Home to work. I work at the Carding Home and in the prison. I said, these are the least among us. Well, I am trained as a doctor. I will look after them if I have to. And so I developed an affinity for people who are imprisoned and people who are at the Carding Home. As the Bible said, the least among us, what will we do for them? So we have painted it. We want it to look good. I want to thank the nurses who are working tirelessly hard there to transform the lives of the people there and to say to them that you might be here, but you are still human. You're still a human being. You should be treated as such. So we painted it up, make it look nice. We're going to do some work on the roof. And most of all, we're going to bring in nurses who specialize in that type of nursing to just take care of these. And I believe me, it might be the best place in St. Kitts where we'll be able to get that type of nursing care. But we believe we should really take care of them. So we have started significant work here as well. There's a lot to be done. But as you see, we have a plan and we are working the plan. There are threats. There are threats, for example, to the CBI program. I'm aware. That is why we want to create a sustainable island state and get to renewable energy so that we can wean ourselves off of that. And you have a quite fundamental question between then and now. There will be a transition, of course, but there's a pathway. And those who read the IMF report would know that we are not guessing, but we are putting things in place to make sure that we can transition. Just to wrap up then, I want to thank you. I mean, these were some very good questions. I think these are the questions that our citizens have on their minds. And I like to use this format where we can sit down and have a conversation on tough things. You know, eye to eye, same level, not me above you, so that we can have that meaningful conversation. But in my wrap up, I want to say we have started the sovereign. We have now gotten the report for the Sovereign Wealth Fund. We're going to call it Adaptation and Sustainability, but it will do the same thing. We're going to put it, so the extra savings we have, we put it in a fund. And we're going to build legislation around it, not just policy alone, but legislation. So anybody want touch it as they like, you will have to go into Parliament and explain to the people why you would want to touch it as you like. We have to start putting laws in place to protect our people's assets and resources. Otherwise, they can be squandered, as they were squandered from the Development Bank and so forth. And so that is a major, major development for St. Kitts and Nevis. The other one that we are doing is that we are now waiting on the World Bank to present its report on how we should share the revenue between St. Kitts and Nevis to bring that discussion to an end. At least people respect the World Bank, they have no skin in the game, so that when that report comes, we can say, look, this is a credible report, and this is a report that will guide how we share the resources between St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is coming very, very soon. What I want to say to the people of St. Kitts is that this government continues to work hard, tirelessly hard on your behalf. We are open. I know there are questions, especially when others talk and you hear the mistruths because of the forum we're in. I wouldn't use other words with respect to the facts, and once the facts come out, I think they would suffice. I want to say that we are responsible government, will continue to work towards the sustainable island state agenda. I want to say to you, the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis, let us work together. It is our way out to become energy independent. There is no free meal on this earth. Whatever we want, we have to work for. We have to be innovative. We have to be intelligent. Nobody else is more intelligent than us. We don't claim to be more intelligent than anybody else. We're endowed with whatever they're endowed with. And if they can do it, we can do it. So let us be realistic in our approach. Let us do what we have to do because we have a way out that in a few years we can really transition St. Kitts and Nevis to a sustainable island state, a place where you continue to live well and you will improve the condition of living. Thank you very much for joining us. And I want to thank the media and all who are involved. Thank you all very much.
Thank you so much for tuning in. You were listening to the Roundtable. The Roundtable is aimed at fostering a relationship with the media houses in St. Kitts and Nevis to create an atmosphere of transparency and accountability, key aspects of the government's good governance agenda. I want to thank the media houses again for coming out and engaging with the Prime Minister, and for those media houses that carried our session today. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. And thank you to our Alicia Williams, who does an excellent job every time. This was the Roundtable.